Once Paul Biya came in 2017 and escalated to wake up the Ambazonian conscience, to wake up the Ambazonian nation. The day the SDO, I don't know if people remember, the SDO of Manu sent out that communique telling people that there are these 7 divisions or subdivisions that the armies come in. If they meet anybody there, they're gonna consider them terrorists. The day they burned Mami Api, the day that they did, they started doing all of these things. That was the day the Ambazonian nation woke up. And this one and indivisible Cameroun thing is dead.
Thanks for joining me on Esteemed Television, ladies and gentlemen. We should have a show that captures, what we know so far about ourselves, about our neighbors, about the struggle. Let's just capture what Ambazonia is all about. So that's the show I want to do. And I always believe that if you want to tell our story somewhere, always go back to the root cause, even if it's just for a minute, because there are so many narratives about our struggle that if you don't recapture where we're coming from, people will not really understand where we are now and why we have the problems we're having. And I don't mean that we should go back into some ancient history, because our adversaries or people who are competing for our territory would like to tell us that we're part of some German Cameroun, and that for some reason they claim us or we're bound together. That is all nonsense, because territories change, ownership changes, and people move on. Boundaries change. The only things that remain permanent in Africa are the tribes. And if we want to go back to our ancient way, then the Bafut people are Bafut people, the Bali people are Bali people, the Bamilekes are Bamilekes, Igbos are Igbos, the people in Ghana, in Kumasi are Kumasians. So those are the real places where people can really claim ownership for a long time, because those are their tribes and we are organized in tribes. So anybody who comes saying we're part of some German Cameroon are just running a narrative. We were never part of a French empire. I know there are a lot of people who have spent time discussing this, and they're discussing this because they want to keep addressing the false narratives. But we were part of a German territory. They lost that territory. Those who won that war divided those territories, kept it for themselves, and then moved on with their territories the way they wanted. But I can tell you, and I want to mention this part before we come into our story, I can tell you that the narratives that have gone on in La République du Cameroun have led them to influence our situation, which without those narratives and what they did, we will not be part of La République today. Okay? The UPC, for a long time, it was part of their policy to say that Ambazonia, that all the German Cameroon territories must come together. We've already moved on as people who were colonized by the British, but they stayed on it, and because they stayed on it, they made uniting with us, and I'm assuming the other territories that went to Central Africa, Gabon, Congo, and Nigeria. I'm hoping that in their thinking, those were also parts of it. But the fact that they lost it and they lost those territories really shows that their arguments don't hold. In the final analysis, it is not the law that or the logic that makes it happen in this world. It's geopolitics. So geopolitics came in, they won, they took the French took their own part and became French. It did not remain German. And then the British took their own, it went British. And while we were there saying, oh, the UN laws or UN trusteeship rules say this and that, people who peddle on war do understand what geopolitics mean before we are now understanding it. In fact, I wasn't quite as convinced as I am now the role of geopolitics until I interviewed Thibault Nash, and he clarified it. He clarified it, and we had to push him.
I agree with you totally that the people are 100% united in what they are upset about. When I was talking about a certain amount of disunity, is I don't believe in, you tell me I'm wrong. I don't believe the people are 100% united on what the solutions are going to be. Unfortunately, there is no polling, in southern Cameroons as to, choose A if you want an Ambazonian republic, choose B if you want a true decentralized federalism, choose C if you want to return to the binational structure. So until there is that type of a unanimity, I agree with you 100% on what the people are against, but it's not as clear that there's 100% on what the people are for. Or am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. But let me say that, and I really, one of the things I really want to accomplish in this interview is reconcile what the friends of Ambazonia or the friends of Southern Cameroons and what the international community think. I want to reconcile that with what Ambazonians also think. And I also want to reconcile what the problem is from what the international community with what Ambazonians know the problem is. Because to Ambazonians, it's not really a question of majority. It's a question of legality. It's a question of legality. And that's why you see a lot of lawyers being exiled, being shot, being killed, being maltreated. It is because it is a legal issue. And so once that is understood, then I think we will all start talking about real solutions. Because right now it looks like we're speaking bypass each other. Because and I'm saying this, Mr. Ambassador, because everybody internationally say, let's go to the root cause. And yes, the root cause is not about the root cause of Southern Cameroon. Everybody has always wanted to make it a resolution of majority. It's not really a matter of majority because the Southern Cameroons was a trust territory of the UN, and 76B of that trust territory makes it very clear that this country should be led to this territory should be led to self-government or independence. In fact, it was the American president, I think it was Woodrow Wilson, who at the League of Nations did not want German colonies to be taken over by the victors who defeated Germany in the First World War, and that's how come the mandate system was created. Then that became the trusteeship system when the UN was created. Are you seeing where I'm coming, sir?
Yeah, I absolutely see where you're coming. You talk about root causes. Let's add one other factor. As I mentioned that from my limited knowledge, I believe that the Southern Cameroonians, or dare I say the potential Ambazonians, are not united in solutions. But from my knowledge, the Cameroonian government itself is not united. They very much have divisions within themselves, within the government, as to some people are much more open to accommodation, and some people are very, very hard line, who want to respond with an iron fist. And then, you mentioned the basic fundamental problem. For me, that's relatively simple. To me, the basic fundamental problem is that Anglophone Cameroonians have been treated as second-class citizens in every single respect of the word. And, you can try to paint over that any number of ways, with legal systems, with constitutional systems, with national assemblies, with elections. But as long as that mindset stays within the Cameroonian government, there is not going to be a resolution.
All right, so I understand that part. I think if I if I were to accomplish something today, and if we were gonna make a statement about what I just explained about what 76B, that's why you see anytime you hear Ambazonians speak about their issue, they're going back to the UN. And it is because they were never programmed to become part of La République du Cameroun. In fact, I sometimes think that it was more a matter of a Cold War situation where Ambazonia became, or the Southern Cameroons became part of La République du Cameroun. But then, if you look at all the territories that became, that their politics became complicated because of Cold War situations, they're all free today. I was reading a piece somewhere where somebody wrote, if Brexit is possible, then Ambazit is also possible. So it seems to me that the law does not apply in Africa. And I would like you to address that, because if we follow the law, then we really should go back and correct. That's the way Ambazonians see it. That if we were going to follow the law, we should go back and correct what happened. Because I was reading a piece where the American ambassador in Lagos at the time said the plebiscite vote that the people of Ambazonia were voting to get out of Nigeria, not to join La République du Cameroun. I think his name was Ambassador Williamson or something like that. I don't know if you're familiar with all that information, because Ambazonians are very, very detailed in their understanding of what their problem is, because there's no way in the world, even the British and the French, for I would say thousands of years, never could see eye to eye. I don't know why anybody believes that taking an quote unquote Anglo-Saxon population or Africans that were brought up in that tradition suddenly have them join a tradition that I would say is a very heavy-handed tradition.
Yeah, I hate to pour cold water on anything, but I think it's a fact of life that in geopolitical systems, legalities do not trump geopolitical realities. And I'm also kind of like you, coming from a background where after World War I, my native country of Hungary lost 2/3 of its territory, despite the wonderful feelings that Mr. Wilson had for self-determination. Because the winners called the shots. The British and the French decided that, Austria-Hungary was too much of a threat, so they dismembered it.
And he finally said, okay, you know what? Geopolitics trumps legality. And so while the UPCs in La République du Cameroun or in the French colony were arguing for the legality of trust territories and not colonies, no, the geopolitics has already determined that La République du Cameroun was French, and French were going to assimilate them, and I guess pass the buck on to Paul Biya to come and try and assimilate also. So I just wanted to clarify that part so that Ambazonians know that they are Ambazonians and La République's La République. But La République, because of what they were thinking, they came to our land, and because they came into our land, they took us to La République. And I'm saying this because by 1958, they were preparing us to be independent with Nigeria at the same time. Now, the other theories about how we are broke and they're not going to give us the key to the Bank of England and all of that, those were now narratives that were coming because when the UPCs ran into our country and started agitating for us for Southern Cameroons at the time to form an army and fight the French in their country, because that's what they did. They became so noisy, and so militant about it that the British did not like it. It was causing chaos in Southern Cameroons. And then when Foncha took over in 1959, and Foncha was part of their discussion in the background. He was part of their discussion about. When I interviewed Foncha, I said, why is it that there was a war raging in La République and you and your KNDP were talking about us joining them? He said that's what they have always said during the Cameroon time. Now, Professor Anyangwe has clarified for us that Ambazonians were never thinking of going to La Republique. But it was a very strong feeling in La Republique, and Foncha was very aware of that. And so when UPC came over, he was part of it, and when Foncha took over, then the British said, okay, if we allow Ambazonia to become independent, then the UPC will become influential, and they were not ready to give Southern Cameroons to an organization that had communist feelings or looking for help from the communist world to win their independence from the French. And so they blocked our independence, and that's how we ended up as part of La République du Cameroun. Otherwise, the British were not thinking of us becoming part of La République du Cameroun. They were thinking of giving our independence, and that's how we were sabotaged. Now, when obviously we ended up being part of La République du Cameroun through a UN plebiscite, which said, which actually spelled out what we were voting for. We were voting to become a federation with equal status with La République. That's what our people voted for. That we didn't get. And you see our lawyers now trying to say, well, even the colonization, unless they want to make it like old-time colonization, you can't just, in 1961, just move into a territory without being legal. And while we were there, these people treated us like animals. They treated us as a conquered state. We didn't even know what they were doing to us until we just knew that they were treating us like a conquered people. They were taking our property. They were erasing us left and right. Closed Santa Coffee, closed all the ports, all the ports through which Southern Cameroon government was getting revenues. They shut all of those down. Shut down the deep sea port in Victoria. They shut everything down, and that bankrupted us and made us dependent on them. They took even our earth-moving equipment. They treated our land like this is a conquered land, and we will take what we want here. The CIA looked at it and like, man, if you guys continue like this, these people are going to revolt. Published 3rd February 1986. It says the Anglophones, who constitute some 20% of the population of nearly 10 million, fear their gradual assimilation into the dominant Francophone community, according to the U.S. Embassy reporting. Although they currently lack the leadership and unity to effectively challenge Biya's rule, we believe the Anglophone minority is a potential time bomb, and should the central government fail to respect their cultural and linguistic traditions, the 2 million strong community may view armed confrontation as their only alternative. It says it right there. And of course, in 2016, the lawyers started being more assertive now with asking these people, show me the Act of Union. If you don't show me the Act of Union, then you don't have a right to be doing what you're doing to us. Because you're not as a friend, you're not as a neighbor, you're not as a federation. You just came into our land. You're acting like a bandit. By 2017, November 30th, 2017, Paul Biya declared a war on us. And that war caused so much devastation that on May 13th, 2019, the US, Germany, UK, and I think Dominican Republic, they actually called a meeting at the UN to say what is going on with the population in Ambazonia needs serious consideration. I don't know if any of you remember that UN meeting that was going on. So what is going on? What has been going on with Ambazonia is something that the whole world has been seeing and raising alarm. And the French and La République just keep doing what they're doing. What I'm looking for is November 12, 2019, the Paris Peace Summit hosted by Mo Ibrahim, where Paul Biya actually came out and said, you know what, we've been trying to assimilate them.
We were first of all colonized by Germany, and then after the First World War, Germany lost its colonies, and this one was divided between Britain and France. My country was divided. One part was colonized by Britain and the other by France. We were faced with a juxtaposition of two cultures and civilizations, and this made things delicate. We did all to bring equality of the two languages, the English language and the French language. But the mentality, the educational system, the judicial system were different. We therefore had a conflict and decided to give to the part of my country that was colonized by Britain a special status. But it will remain within the unity of the nation. This is the problem we have resolved. We had the possibility of integrating it directly into the Francophone system, which was the majority of the population, 80%. But I believe they have held on to their own identity, and that is why we have instituted this in the Anglophone zone. But they will remain within the territorial integrity of Cameroun.
Mais elle reste dans l'intégrité territoriale du Cameroun.
And so if Ambazonians were wondering, why do you close our ports? Why are you calling us Anglophiles? Why are you calling us Biafrans? Why are you making us feel like strangers in our own country? It was because they were trying to assimilate us. I cannot assimilate people without destroying them, without taking everything away from them and then make them become what you want them to be. Take away their language, let them speak French. Take away their law, let them follow the common law that they follow. You know, I mean, of course, the French had their policy of assimilation and the British did not have that. So they were bringing something really new to our land, and that is when our resistance started, and that's where we are now. Now, this is something that I really wanted to get into and give you that background. I do have Terence on the phone with me. I would like to invite Terence so that we basically let me see what his take is on this. Because, like I said, what we're doing, we're recapping at the end of the year and giving our little what we think about what has happened, so that our people go into the next year informed and start doing things at a conscious level, so that we can become more organized to win back our struggle, to win back our land, to win back our rights, restore our seaport, and start getting an economy for ourselves. And don't go. Do you know it became so bad that our people used to go to Yaoundé and become servants, just the same as Africans live and go to Muslim countries and become servants? They used to call us Baminda. Voilà mon Baminda. Can you imagine? These are people who came from their own country. I always like to say this, and it's not only me saying it. We came from a superior system, a more enlightened system, and then we go and we're slaves. I want to welcome Terence. Terence, welcome for joining us. So I just ran my mouth there for quite a bit. What did you hear?
Well, I can summarize it by saying that we need to invoke what Tiwonaj stated. The very idea of the two alternatives was illegal. It was inspired by geopolitics, which we now understand fully trumps any kind of legality or international law. Because if geopolitics did not prevail, then Ambazonia, a former mandate under the United Nations, under the League of Nations, and a former trust territory under the Trust Territory Agreements would have become independent along the lines which neighboring Nigeria did, along the lines which Ghana did, along the lines which the Republic of Cameroon also did. So the long and short of it is basically that is the preeminence of Western geopolitical considerations over legalities and international laws that themselves enacted.
Exactly. I want to go back to the narratives that followed after the British changed their minds, because they were very ready to. In fact, there are reports at the time showing that Southern Cameroon was very, very profitable to the Crown. But once they changed their mind, and I want you to talk a little bit on this, because there are a lot of false narratives that go, and we need to debunk those false narratives, because the British benefited on our land. La République du Cameroun is benefiting from our land, but these narratives about how we're broke. You remember the British also said, I know you have some of those quotes where they used to say that we are broke, and so they will not give us the key to the Bank of England. Actually, there's another thing which they said which was even worse than that.
Well, one of the quotes that I remember was that one of the colonial officers said that the people of the Southern Cameroon were expendable.
That's what I want. That's what I was looking for. Yes.
That's one of the ones that stand out.
Yes.
All of the nonsense of giving the key of England to the native inhabitants of that territory in Africa. I mean, who told them to leave all the way from the British Isle to come and offer the key of England to people in Africa? Did we invite them?
No, we're not invited.
So,
yep.
No, we did not invite them to come to the coast to the Amba Bay and the hinterlands, and at the end of the day, spew nonsense about not giving us access to the Bank of England. As you rightly said, we had tribes and communities that were self-sustaining thousands of years before these people came to the shores and the hinterlands of our territory.
Absolutely.
Again, fundamental to our understanding today and moving forward is the understanding that human territorial history is about the law of the jungle. And obviously, the reference made by Thibonage is an elegant way of putting it, saying that geopolitics trumps legality. And I think that's something that, unfortunately for us, Yaoundé understood that from the very beginning, and we did not.
Well, we did. Look, I only understood it because it was the French who actually understood. I've always said that if the French were not there and coaching them, La République, even after independence, could have not come to our land, because remember, Hijo was resisting all of that. Well, so when we say Yaoundé, I think we're giving too much credit to Yaoundé. It was the French who were behind them, directing them to do all these things.
Yeah, you can say that. And when you talk about the French, you seem to want to isolate the French only. It was the French, it was the British, it was the Americans. It was what today has become commonly called the collective West. And they obviously considered the BR government their partners. And in that partnership, the ethos of geopolitics is preeminent. And but that's well understood now within the Ambazonian struggle. And I think if you see what's unfolding, it's unfolding with the understanding that, it's not about legality. It's about the deconstruction of that concept of geopolitics, which is warfare, which is armed struggle, which is fighting, which is unfortunately killing each other, and that's what it's all about. And you do that until the partners of La République du Cameroun, the so-called partners of La République du Cameroun, start facing whatever diminishing returns they're getting from their partnership, especially as it concerns the territory of Ambazonia. And at that point, they'll have to reassess their geopolitical considerations, and hopefully changes in policies will come into play.
Absolutely. Now we have Ambazonians have been on this fight since 2017. And where do you think we are now? Obviously, we let me. What's your assessment of where we are now?
My assessment is based on a review of similar liberation struggles. Most liberation struggles, I'm sure there are exceptions to that rule, usually last at least 2 generations, at least a generation, and whether it's the one in East Timor, it took them 30 years, the one between South Sudan and Sudan, the one between Eritrea and Ethiopia, and so on. Some of the independence struggles in the southern part of the continent, those took 2 decades, for everything to unfold, for the freedom fighters to become more sophisticated, more organized, for them to understand who their real allies are, for infiltrators and their mechanisms to be identified, for trust to be built within the actors on the ground, and maybe those who want to support them from outside the territory. So those are not relationships. Those are not mechanisms that take 5-6 years. It may take 10 years. It may take longer. And that's why I think in most of these cases that I've mentioned, it took 25, 30 years, 35 years in some cases, for everything to gel together. The other side also suffers as the liberation struggle continues. It depletes them economically, it depletes them psychologically, it depletes them morally, and especially when you're fighting for a cause which is just, which is objectively just. It's very hard for people who are fighting for an objectively just cause to just pack their bags and go home.
No, because there's no home there. They have to, and I think, and let me just add this to it. The reason why they can't just pack their bags and go, because they sat and these things come and met them in their homes, and so until it is met right, and that's why our people have been on this struggle since 1961. I think it was really an escalation in 2017, but we have been there since 1961, since these people took us over. It took us, just like you said, it took a long time before we even understood what was happening to us. We thought we had partners. We thought we were Cameroonians. We thought we called them our brothers. So absolutely, yeah, what you're stating there, I'm glad we're mentioning this, because we're going to get to a point where it's been 10 years, and some of the behaviors that I see among some Ambazonians makes me wonder if they do understand some of what you're explaining, and how long these things take, how long some of these things do take, how long liberation struggles take. And I'm saying this because an election just took place in La République du Cameroun, and I saw a lot of our people getting very involved. And so there were debates whether should we be participating, and what does that participation do to our struggle. I don't know if you heard some of those, and if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, the first thought is that people are free to do whatever they want to do. So if you want to participate in Cameroonese politics as a Anglophone, that's your cup of tea.
And that's a derogatory term. That's not just a description.
If you want to participate as an Anglophone, that's your cup of tea. What the prevailing truth is that there is an injustice which is in the process of being repaired. There is an injustice which is in the process of being repaired. And it is in the process of being repaired after 10 years of largely not the most organized resistance. It is in the process of being repaired with an understanding, with a more sophisticated political understanding by those who have remained true to the notion of justice for the Ambazonian people and for that territory with our international borders, which are not being demarcated today, right? Mm-hmm. So we do have that territory, we do have a nation state that at some point was even self-governing before Cameroun, the Republic of Cameroun was an independent country.
Yes.
By the way, the date of their independence is on January 1. I think we should remind them what the Republic of Cameroun looked like on January 1, and give them that visual remembrance. In any case, in the struggle of the Ambazonian resistance is now in the hands of people who fully focused with the understanding that legality comes at the end of the geopolitical game, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So so those are the people. When you hear the Amba boys say in one of the clips that you played recently that they are not ready for peace and that they are ready to continue fighting. In our pidgin language, they want to pala, right? They're ready to continue fighting.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of that understanding that that's the only thing that at the end of the day is being understood by the French, the Cameroonese, and their so-called partners. All over the people who decided to make this regime their partners. So that's the way I see it.
Well, I want to go back to something you said, that people should do what they want to do with their time. And the reason why I want to come back there is because
I'm acknowledging that there's very little control that one can have if somebody decides that I'm going to be a spokesperson for X, Y, or Z, or want to be an advocate now for this project. I'm not naive that when they take that position, they are advocating for a position which goes against the position that Ambazonian justice seekers are advocating for.
Yes.
But all I'm acknowledging is that there are these guys or girls or women who are gonna exhibit their free will and do whatever they need to do, like in every society. But those who drive change are a few, quote unquote, a few good men. And that's what that's what's driving the Ambazonian resistance today. And it's driving them in a much more focused, much more, they're building the organization. I think we're sensing, a rebuild away from the noise and excitement and emotion that the struggle started with.
Yes, what I want to emphasize here is that, just like I said, the people of La République came into our territory and became wild, and through that we lost our independence or opportunity for independence, and so and then we have allowed people who are not indigenous of the territory to be in our territory, and when you're in a situation like this, you really need to start being worried about who are your partners, who is sabotaging you. Because I want to go back to something I said in one of my shows, that just live and sow is not acceptable, but it's something that prevails in our societies. And so because of the just live and sow, we have allowed people who we haven't vetted, we have allowed people who don't have an interest in mind to take over our businesses, and then before you know, they've sold us. And so what I'm looking at right now in our territory, there are three groups of people. They are the people who are under the payroll of La République, who are supposed to be our leadership, or people who represent us, but but they are sold. They are with La Republic who can sinker in their parliament. They're more interested in their money. They come into our territory. I hear that some of the inflation of votes were done by them, and so here our people were under ghost town. They didn't go out to vote, but these people who are our people, but are under the payroll of La Republique, they serve them. Maybe because we've all been bankrupt, so that our people would sell their souls. I don't want to go into reason why people do that, but yeah, go ahead.
Everything you're stating, there's nothing that you're stating which is new, which is unique to Ambazonia. Every colonial situation has its fifth columnist. Every colonial situation has its indigenes who work for the colonizer. Every colonial situation have the profiteers. I mean, it's as old as the history of colonization.
I agree.
And the decolonization process, whether it's mental, psychological, physical, through armed rebellion, like the CIA predicted in 1986. Those are all things which are being poured out within this 10, 20, 30-year process of a decolonization struggle. And you're going to have people who will oppose the decolonization of that land until the very last minute, and the lucky ones will move over to the side of the former colonial power. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there's really nothing new. There's really nothing new to that. You know, the people within that territory, people who came in from other territories and are now part of. No, that's normal. That's expected. There's nothing, but part of this process involves handling that situation. Right. Mm-hmm. Part of this discussion is also this discussion you're having or we're having is a process of that, right?
And because I want to let me interject and
process of addressing those things which colonized peoples face, and which liberation struggles have to deal with.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm not disagreeing that people will do what they want to do, but what I'm trying to address here is that I want to bring the sensitivity so that our people know, because, if until you bring this awareness, our people who are struggling to scoop it, to scratch a daily living, don't have time to think about these things or do some of the research that you and I are able to do. And so this part of the awareness, and I agree with you, and I'm glad that you recognize that, but we need to bring it to awareness that there are people who are among us who are not even in the pay of La Republique, and some do it without being aware that they're actually selling out the process, And so what I've done is I have three groups that I really want to be concerned about in our territory. Those who are paid, those who are parliamentarians and senators, and these are people who look. They're not even pretending. You cannot even say that they know that they're serving an enemy, because some of them really believe in what they do. They enjoy it. They profit from it, and they will fight you who wants the independence of Ambazonia, so that you don't get that independence because their interest is that narrow. Definitely, our people should be aware of those people. They are the same people who would report some of the people fighting, and so they are not our partners in this struggle. And I think our people should know them. Then they are what I call the 11 provinces who when given who we look as part of ours, but given an opportunity, they sell us. And I want to say two things here. It's not all the people from 11 province who do that. And I'm not even blaming those who value their native lands. But because people are all over the world now, we're all over the world living in other people's land. But you don't sabotage the country where you're living in because you want to benefit some other territory just because of some ancestral attachment. Nobody prevents you from going back and being what you want to be there. But don't sabotage Ambazonian independence because, you know, Terence, this thing that I'm talking about is really deep. And I want to let you know that our people need to know about this, because when trusteeship council members came to southern Cameroon between 1958 and 59, the communities that were organized, that were very, very organized, were not Ambazonians. And it is because our people were not aware of these things. So they will come and go to Kumba. I really want to mention Kumba because that's where a lot of 11 province people were there. They were organized politically. Our people did not even tell, couldn't even tell that these are foreigners, and their advocacy with the trusteeship visitors was about reunification. They were not telling. In fact, I read somewhere that the reason why the language of our struggle is that of reunification. That is a La République. Those are words coming from La République and from the UPC people. Those are the people who coined those terms. And so I was reading where they said when the UN trusteeship visiting people came, they met a lot of them, and when they left the territory, they didn't know whether our people really wanted, what kind of independence our people wanted. And that's how come they were even entertaining the whole idea of us joining anybody other than our country, because they were coming and hearing these conversations. So I definitely want our people to be very aware that there are a lot of people who are interested in our territory. There are people who live with you, they talk like you, they walk, they deliver them in our territory, but their interest is somewhere else and they are not with us. When you know those people and you are fighting for our struggle, then you also know how to avoid them. Because if the military comes looking for people, guess what? They will tell the military where you are. So our people need to know, because our fight is a very legitimate fight. The CIA knows that it's a legitimate fight. None of these, the CIA, I'll play a tape here of Ed Coyne, who was the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, and you hear what he says about us.
Secretary of State for African Affairs. Ambassador Cohen, welcome back to our program.
Thank you.
We saw this Anglophone crisis. Why that part of Cameroon instead of, or more so, than the Francophone area of Cameroon?
Well, the English-speaking part of Cameroon is in deep trouble because there's a great deal of discrimination against those people by the majority who are French-speaking. They're getting very little of the wealth or very little of the business investment and that sort of thing, so they are very angry. Secondly, when they voted under the United Nations to join the French-speaking Cameroon, they came in as a federal independent state, and they had their own legislator and their own chief of state, and they only shared the currency and the foreign policy and the defense. In 1972, the federal government had a referendum to unite, and of course this was illegal because this minority never wanted to be united totally with the rest of Cameroon, so they were just smothered and taken into Cameroon. They're very angry about it.
You've heard Thibault Nash lament how we're being treated. So our fight is very, very legitimate, and we need to be speaking out clearly because we are human beings. We are human beings. I've always said that if somebody wants us to be a dog, we cannot be dogs because we are not dogs. We will be human beings doing what humans do. And so, and I'm going to end this segment pretty soon. I just want to bring to the attention of our people that there are a lot of people who stay among us. Please know who is around you, who they are, what their interest is, and where they stand on our struggle, because we need to be free. Another thing is that we are very, very disorganized. Right now, we don't even have any national leadership. So I don't know, Terence, do you want to have anything to add there? Because I really think that this is an important point as this new year comes. Because even though our struggle or liberation struggles take long, you can shorten it by being a little more efficient.
Well, I have nothing to add to what you said. Yeah, it is important for people to understand, to be informed by history. That goes without saying. I think outlets like Esteem TV help in that process. There was a country in Africa called Algeria that the French were in complete control of Algeria for over a century, for over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the proclamation when the Algerians started agitating was Algeria was French and will remain French forever.
Mm-hmm.
L'Algérie est français et, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the duration of once people wake up, it's the end of the story. That's my conviction. Once Paul Biya came in 2017 and escalated to wake up the Ambazonian conscience, to wake up the Ambazonian nation. The day the SDO, I don't know if people remember, the SDO of Manu sent out that communique telling people that there are these 7 divisions or subdivisions that the armies come in. If they meet anybody there, they're going to consider them terrorists. The day they burned Mami Api, the day that they started doing all of these things, that was the day the Ambazonian nation woke up. And this one and indivisible Cameroun thing is dead.
Part of the question what I wanted to ask, should our people be participating in La République du Cameroun? What do they hope to get from there? I think you addressed this in one of your writings, and I just want to say that you said the president, if he succeeds to come into power, will operate strictly within the confines, within the silos of France-Afrique. There is nothing revolutionary about Chiroma. He is a France-African par excellence. He will be another good student of the French. If you will, as president of the Republic of Cameroon, he will be the new warden in a France-Afrique prison that we unfortunately find ourselves in and which we are determined to get out. I don't want to read the whole thing, but this is something that you say. Could you expand? Because there are people who are interested in what is happening in La République, and I think what is making them what is driving them to participate is they believe that something out of it can come out to benefit Ambazonia. Is it possible?
No, I don't think it's possible. Decolonization is a revolutionary project. What is happening in Cameroon is not a revolutionary project. That's why I said that nothing Chiroma offered was revolutionary. So we are in a completely different plane of consciousness. The Ambazonian project is in a completely different plane of consciousness than what is taking place in La République du Cameroun. The recognition that the best Chiroma can be is continue being a warden. I mean, I don't know how else to explain that. I think that speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself, and I think that a good example is what happened in Ivory Coast. And I have also said that if Chiroma for Chiroma to become president through an election, the French would have to endorse it. And when the French endorse it, it means you have to obey the cooperation agreements, which in our last show, Lawyer Boga actually kind of spoke clearly about it as being a hindrance in us even working with La République. Gbagbo took over the government of Ivory Coast through a vote. He became the president. He just wanted to to allow contracts to be bid for, and then he will give the contract to whoever gives a bidding that works better for Ivory Coast. The French wouldn't let him. He had an army who he thought he could challenge the French. And I'll repeat this, I've said this somewhere. Traoré said, you cannot take an army to a battle when it's not the army you trained. So the revolutionary Terence is talking about is not going to come through a ballot box. And yes, you are correct that the people of La Republique will have to join. But I just brought this part so that our people are a little more informed. And informed in the sense that we are not just saying these things, but you're looking at other countries that the French have been involved in. Terence, I'm going to bring this to you and see what you think, because to me, we are still fighting village by village like we did, and the Germans came, defeated one village, and took and before you know, they had easier fights because they come as a German enemy, as a German army, and they meet the Bakuri people, defeat them, and then move to the Lobialen people, defeat them, and then the Widikum people. So my whole thing is that we are not even organized to fight yet. First of all, we do not have any national leadership. I do not know any. Like I keep saying, our struggle is a legitimate struggle. If you are always fighting it based on the enemy's terms, you will not win. We need to know who are the leaders of things. Yes, when you come, people always tell me, "Oh, you cannot, you don't need to know who the leader is on the ground because La Republique will go and kill them." Well, you know what? I think if you organize yourself better, you can protect yourself better. So I don't think that you cannot be fighting and people don't know who you are. Because this fight is a legitimate fight, and we need to know who is fighting God's fight, so that people who want to help you, or countries that want to help you, or non-profit organizations around the world that want to help you, they know who to call. I think there is a need for Ambazonia to start having leadership, not the leadership in jail. That's not your leadership. And I know they did not build an institution where they have a leadership that remains. So we need to organize. Otherwise, I don't know who has succeeded without being organized. When we were in college, we used to help the ANC protest. We knew exactly who the ANC is. We knew of Nelson Mandela in jail. We used to sing, "Free, free, free Mandela." Our struggle, it is that important. It is that important. La République knows what they are doing to us. The French know what they are doing to us. How can you come in the 21st century and you want to assimilate a people? You want to assimilate a people. That's evil. And when you're fighting evil, don't hide. Do it boldly. Be careful, but you need to speak clearly about the evil.
We do need a better organization. I'm hoping that with time that will fall. But if you ask me how to go about that, especially when it involves areas that I have no expertise in, like fighting and coordinating that, then it's hard for me to really make bold pronouncements on that.
Yeah, no, I think we all
what I can look at is, again, as I've tried to expand on, is you look at the scientific basis of how the scientific processes of how other struggles have evolved. Maybe we want to look at the minutiae of how the details. People always say the devil is in the details. You want to get into that, but I don't think any of us are in a position to be able to determine that, to know exactly where things are. Do we know if there's some silent leader who is being sponsored by some silent partner, inside or outside? And because the rhythm in which things have been happening over the last few months is, I do not know, and I would rather not.
No, I see. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we are not in a position to do anything. What we do, we are podcasters. Podcasters are people who have an idea and they go out there. I have seen people who are not even Ambazonians talk about the situation in Ambazonia in a very sad way, and I think they call the struggle. There's a name they call the struggle that nobody knows about, or something. You've heard some very strange names, right? People know about the suffering down there, but they don't. But they say the world is not paying attention to it. They're not paying attention to it because there's nobody talking about it. I mean, I've talked how the U.S. and some other countries brought people together to say the human situation in Ambazonia is not very good, but and after that, nothing else. So I think that we need to organize better. We need to organize, and I think the way to organize is to make it clear to our citizens that you are not a robber. You are not doing evil. You are trying to drive evil from your land where you sat there, and people have been coming one after the other, invading your land. And if you travel between La République du Cameroun and Nigeria, Ambazonia is a no man's land. It's barren. And anybody who has come in there, they claim it. If you go to Bamenda, it's run by Francophones. I even hear that if you try to do any heavy investment in our territory, they won't even let you. They would say, they will discourage the banks from giving you a loan so you invest in Ambazonia. Of course, that's what assimilationists do. They don't empower you. They don't empower the people they want to assimilate. And so they'll rather, I was listening to somebody say, people who used to make upholstery in Bamenda, they were given money to go do it in Yaoundé. And these are indigenous people who are trying to develop their own towns, and they come and like, you know what, if you go to Yaoundé and do this, we'll give you the loan to become bigger. I also want to talk about even when they came and, there's this example which Dr. Monzo mentioned in a piece where PMO was purely an Ambazonian organization. These people have invested their money. La République came and took the building of the headquarters of PMO in Ambazonia. They went and built it in Douala. These are people who, they didn't even just come to leave us alone. No, they came to finish us. It's a genocide. We're not doing anything that's wrong. I just want to let our people know that our struggle is a legitimate struggle, and you need to go out there and speak about it boldly. You don't need to put yourself in danger, because obviously the people who are trying to assimilate you, they want to continue to assimilate you and come into our land and bankrupt people. The military, I hear the military just goes there, and every place they put their checkpoint and collect money from people because the military is poorly paid. So we need to get rid of this in our land. A lot of our people are out of the country, and when people are out of this country, it doesn't mean they're doing well. You can't do any well outside your country more than your own country because you've abandoned your family. There are thousands of people in Nigeria. I don't know how well they're doing there. There are people in La République themselves. That's out of their own territory. In fact, you're living within the enemy. You are an Anglo. You are a Biafran. You are a Baminda. Bamenda is a beautiful town with very progressive people, very educated, advanced people. Without Bamenda, La République would still be a one-man dictatorship today, but they use it to abuse. They make it become a derogatory term to be called a Baminda. That's who we're living with. The CIA has said it's wrong. American Secretary of States have looked at that situation and say it's wrong. And they've tried to work with the BR government, and they don't care. Somehow, evil is legitimized to remain evil and decide whether they want to do good things or not. So it's come down to the people to fight. Terence, help me. Should this leadership be on the ground, or it can be anywhere in the world? What do you think?
It's a liberation struggle. It's a liberation struggle which is, and the spearhead of the liberation struggle is the liberation fighters. And that's where it is, and that's where it should be. Obviously, it's nice to have, it's necessary to have partners overseas. There are times where, for strategic reasons, that's not a discussion that should be
in public,
in the open, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. No, we're not.
I mean, there are just certain things which are obvious, you know.
Yes.
And I think I'm glad that you are addressing some of them, and you know, making your points. You know, I don't think I can add or take anything away from some of the points that you're making. So,
if you don't organize, you're not accomplished, because once through organization, then you know who is who, you know who to trust, and then you can now be more strategic. You can now, you know, to do business, you have to form a company and hire people and work. But I just want to let him know that the Ambazonian people are living under a criminal situation, and maybe it's Pobia's age that made him go sit on that stage and say, we've been trying to assimilate them. I mean, what do you do to assimilate somebody? You know, so I just wanted to say, looking from here and look at the suffering. If it was another country, I'd still say the same thing. I'm like, I see all these bad things happening, but anyways,
we are here today because of what came before, whether it was the domination of Nigerians as a result of the British people, the British administration bringing all of these non-indigenes to help them govern the place. You know, the illegality that the United Nations, you know, sanctioned in not giving us independence.
Mm-hmm.
All of that has brought us to an armed rebellion, as the CIA predicted. And we know what the solution is. We show the map of La République du Cameroun, and I think that should represent the solution to the problem, the political solution, the legal solution, and I think both peoples will be better off once that takes place. Unfortunately, it has to be compelled by the force of arms, spearheaded by the Amba freedom fighters, for that to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what that's our views on what has transpired with us. Terence, what are you what assignment would you give our people for the next year?
Jeez.
Say that again.
You know, I said, geez, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think we are informed by our history, we're informed by our reality, by our circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody reflects that in their own way, in their own unique way. Usually, when there is a problem, you do not expect everybody to be a part of that solution of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There are cases that one person can devise a solution. My focus is on that entity that I consider the spearhead
mm-hmm.
of the solution. We know who they are. They are the freedom fighters. So they just need to take care of themselves, and as you preach all along, organize themselves, you know, nationally, hopefully.
Okay. I'm going to follow what Terence just said by saying that our people need to pay attention to who is representing them. If they're not representing you, let them know that they're not representing you, and let them know that they need to be representing you. If they are if there are people who I just want to develop a more sense of people need to be a little more conscious about who is in their territory and be careful about whether they're supporting you or not. And if they're not, then be aware of them. The least thing you can do is be aware of them, and let's organize, because Ambazonia has never been given an opportunity to organize itself. And for the last 100 years, our national leadership has been responsible for somebody other than us. When this SDF came, we thought we'll finally have an organization, and we supported it massively. But they did not end up the way we wanted. So be conscious of who your people are, organize those people, and when you start doing that, then you start getting power and start getting control of your own land. And that's where your sons and daughters who are all in Nigeria, thousands and thousands of them, I think there are over 100,000 in Nigeria, just Nigeria alone, they'll come back home. And when they come back home, then we'll start building our country. We have a land that's ours. It is very rich, and we need to mobilize, fight in whatever way we need to. Those who can speak should speak. Those who can fight should fight. Those who can make better friends should make better friends. But most importantly, we need to find who. When we talk about leadership, we just mean somebody who coordinates all these efforts. And let's not say La République du Cameroun, that itself is not organized. That is who we are afraid. You know, there used to be some invincible dark force that comes and every place goes dark. No, I think Ambazonians have shown that this is not something that you need to carry guns and bring. And when you bring guns, they'll make those guns ineffective. And I think these fighters have survived much longer than Paul Biya said. So, and I think because we need to be empowered, because what is happening in our territory is wrong. It's wrong everywhere. Even our religious leaders, they've co-opted everybody, including our religious leaders. Our religious leaders, I listen to them, and they're spreading false narratives. But that's for another show. But I just want our people to be sensitive and start coming together. We need some national leadership. We don't have leadership. If somebody says, "Man, I read a story about your country, and I want to help," I don't know who to call and say, call these people. They're even giving more information than I have. We need to be better organized.